Everyone, it's Sam Mackay from Enterprise DNA. It's a breakout session. I want to talk about how we can look at our accounts receivable, how we can group our account receivable analysis so that we can understand when, say, cash is coming into our business. So this is a real world application of Power BI, especially in sort of like the accounting space or the finance space. And this is as I mentioned, a breakout session from the full financial reporting course, which has recently been released at Enterprise DNA Online. That course is obviously far more detailed than what this tutorial is going to be, but I just want to show you what's possible with Power BI. Okay, some really powerful analytics. That's for sure. So what we've got here, is we've got a whole, so obviously a large company, a lot of invoices coming in, and I've grouped them based on certain days. So age 1 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, plus 90 days. And I can see by customer when this cash is expected to come in. I can also see a summary of how much cash is coming in for all of our customers in total. And the other really cool thing here is that this is a totally dynamic report. So I can actually change the date range or selection inside of our report and then get an updated report of what things looked like at a certain day and time. Okay, and so this is certainly far better than some of the static examples that you probably would see out there for this specific analysis. This is totally dynamic and can truly be done quite effectively inside of Power BI. Okay, so I just want to show you basically the DAX behind how you actually do it, so the actual formula techniques around how to do this. The main sort of thing we're going to go into is this dynamic grouping, how we can dynamically group these. And this is a very reusable technique that can be used in many situations or scenarios that you're dealing with in Power BI. But this one specifically, it solves it really, really well. Okay, so I've created a page here just with a bit of setup. And you'll see here that I've got my customers and I've got my invoice numbers and I've got when we sort of invoiced the person, when it was due, and then also selected date. So the selected date is the 3rd of October. So this is whatever I've selected here, and then that particular selected date changes. That's how I create the dynamic aspect behind this report. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at our model. So you'll see here the invoices table is down here. And the unique thing here is look at the relationships to the date table. They're both inactive. And this is what you need to do when you're dealing with multiple dates inside of the fact table here. You need to use these inactive relationships. I've gone over this in a couple of videos, so certainly check those out. But this is just absolutely key to this as well, to make this actually work. Okay, so the key thing we need to work out here, and I did this using a formula here. I'll just talk through the logic, okay? What we needed to work out was how many days from the selected date the due date was, okay? But we also needed to check, was this particular invoice actually live, right? You see all these blanks? Let's have a look here. This due date is after this selected date, right? But the invoice hasn't been issued yet based on this selection. Okay, so we don't need to count this invoice because that didn't exist at the time of sort of the current state at that particular date. Okay, obviously if we extended this out, then yes, it would be due because this is now a live invoice because it was invoiced before the selected date. Okay, and so we're only at any particular time looking at the live invoices that any customer has. Okay. So once we have completed that calculation, we now have how many days each invoice, the relevant invoices are until they are due. And this is where that grouping comes in, because now we have the days, we can put them into those groups. Now, what we need to do first is we need to create those groups and actually bring that in as a supporting table. So I'll just show you what that table looks like. So you see here, I've created this simple group where I've said, these are my aged groups of my receivables. So 1 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, plus 90. And then I've got min and I've got a max. Okay. And so this is where my invoices are now going to be grouped into these four distinct groups. And I've got every single range. All the ranges all the invoices that are relevant will fall into one range here. Okay. So then what we can do, I'll just bring this into here. So now you'll see with this particular formula here, what this does is it goes and works out what, look at this part of the formula first. It goes and iterates through for every single invoice that we have. It goes and iterates through and works out, does the days left for each individual invoice, is it greater than any particular min and less than any particular max? And it will evaluate to true on one of those rows. If it does evaluate to true, then we calculate that invoice value, okay? Now, in this particular context, in this table, we actually are only looking at one invoice per table, interestingly enough, okay? Sorry, one invoice per row, because of the context that we're getting here. We're actually, this table is filtered for only one unique invoice. And we're saying, okay, well, what does this 177 sit between any of the mins and any of the maxes in this table? And yes, it does. It sits in the age 90 plus days. Okay. Now, the reason it doesn't actually show the groups here is because we actually need to bring it into our matrix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just change this around and turn it into a matrix. And I go like this. And then I actually want this up here. And then in my columns, I'm actually going to bring that column in from that table I just created. So I'm going to bring my groups in here. And you'll see no result is applied now. But then when I add this formula, you'll see now that all of these are in those specific groups. Pretty cool, right? So now I actually have all of my receivables for each individual client. I also want to go down into the more granular level of the actual invoice. I now have it in each specific grouping as per the example here. And that's what this calculation is here with a table that's just sort of set out differently. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly go through how you could do that. Hopefully that is sort of all making a bit of sense. It's just such a powerful technique. I can't reiterate enough how powerful this is from an analytical point of view. Just the dynamic way you can regenerate these calculations and see things how they happen through time, right? I mean, there's just immense value. And then when you wrap that into all the other financial reporting that you can do, it's phenomenal what you can do inside of Power BI. There's just nothing like it out there. Okay, so I'm going to round things off there. Hopefully you enjoyed just working through this advanced example. So there was a little bit there, just around the data model, the supporting table, and the formulas, etc. But once you get the hang of these concepts, you can see how they can be applied in so many different situations. It's almost crazy, to generate that really valuable analysis. Okay, definitely throw the video a like if you enjoyed learning about this one. It's just so cool seeing what's possible, isn't it? And don't forget to subscribe to Enterprise DNA TV. Lots of really high quality Power BI content coming out to you. So I want to get that in your hands as soon as I can. Okay, all the very best.